Okay, so this is the first video for the Rutus Alter 71 version 2.0 of the software, which we've just had upgraded via tcDetects. I'll leave details for that later on in the links. Here we have the new startup screen, so I've gone past the ground balance. I'll do a specific video on ground balance later, but I thought I'd start with the new layout of the screen. As you can see from here, things have changed a little bit. So first off, we have the new section here, which shows you the program you're on. So I'm in the coin program. Next piece of information is there, which is the kilohertz that it's running at, the frequency it's running at. So I'm at coins on 15 kilohertz. Here, this line here that I've got on full at the minute is your sensitivity line. So if I turn that down, you can see the line changes, so you've got a constant reflection of your sensitivity on there as well. I think the rest of the screen is as it was, so you've got your discrimination up here, you've got your battery level, whether you're not on wireless, and your backlight, and in here where you get your target ID, you've also got the type of ID you've selected. So I'm doing it in as a 12 kilohertz. So a few changes, I think, for the better, and I think you'll see as well that one of the other changes that they've made. So moving on into some of the actual changes they've made. So one of the ones that I think most users will like is the fact that they've added some user savable programs. So you don't have to adjust the presets and then save them. You can save your own. So if you go into programs, normal screen, come across, you'll see you have private 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you can change these easily. They all start in with the basic settings in, so you go in as you would the presets previously, change the settings to your to what suits you, to your preferences, and then when the detector closes down, when you power down, the settings are saved. And if you look in the screen, you'll see that it now says P1, so it says P1, 2, 3 or 4 depending on which one you're using, which I think is a great boost if you don't want to mess about with the factory presets. You've now got the option of doing it in a completely different way. Another key change that they've introduced is to the ID type. They've introduced an option that allows you to move the scale from the normal 120 ID range to 180 ID range that goes from -90 to +90. I believe this is based on previous detectors that Rutus have used. So if you one of the other key features that Rutus have introduced for the version 2 of the software is on ID type. Normally you had 3 options here, which were real, at 6 kilohertz and at 12 kilohertz. They were all at a 120 point scale. For the target IDs, Rutus have introduced a 180 point scale, which goes from -90 to +90, and I believe mirrors some of their previous machines and some others in the market. So for those users who prefer a 180 point scale, Rutus have introduced this as an option. So you would go into your screen settings and on the ID type, where you would normally have real, at 6, at 12 you now have also real minus 90 plus 90, 6 minus 90 plus 90, and 12 minus 90 plus 90. It doesn't change any of the frequencies or any way the detector works. It just changes how the processor gives you an ID. So for those more used to the 180 scale or more comfortable with it, or even those who just want to experiment with something a little bit different, you now have a different option on your ID types. And another new feature that is presented as an option for you to choose or not, as the case may be, is ID gain. So this is for signals where you get a tone but the processor's not convinced it's got enough information to give you a target ID. So it doesn't, it leaves you with a tone and a blank screen. So these can be deep, scratchy, if you, however they're resulting, but they don't show a target ID. Switching on ID gain to high, what it does is the processor interprets as much data as it's got, even though it's not massively confident in it, and presents a target ID. It's then down to the user, if they want to use that information to make a decision on digging the signal. I guess it's additional information, so you'll have target ID in essence for everything if you switch ID gain on to high, but you need to be careful because it's not always confident on those signals that are a little bit iffy or a little bit deep. But another new feature asked for by of the development team by users of the Alter 71. Not so much of a feature, the next change, more of an enhancement to what was already there. So previously I think the language options were English and Polish. You now have English, German, I don't know, Latvian maybe, Turkish, that could be Latvian, French. So you have a lot more choices in terms of the language options, broadening the appeal of the detector hopefully. Another enhancement asked for by users was to introduce something that would help differentiate iron, particularly for those who use threshold tones, something that would pull the iron out from the threshold a little bit more. So they've introduced an iron volume, so this will look for specifically iron and give a different tone. Hopefully I'll demo this when we're out in the field, but another useful feature called for by users and provided by Rutus. So one new addition to the version 2 software that isn't optional, I think all the others are that I've been through so far, is the changes to the ground balance. What they've done on the ground balance is introduce tiered ground balance, so that you can see and hear if the machine suspects that you are over metal when you're doing your ground balance. In essence, it gives you a warning that says it's not confident in the ground balance that's been done, and gives you the opportunity to redo this. As you can see from the screen image, this is from the revised manual, they've done this in a sort of tiered scale. So if you're just off, you may be on wet pasture or something like that, and it's given a slightly degraded confidence reading, which you could choose to ignore or not, depending on what you want to do. But this new ground balance should help in the field to make sure that the machine is ground balanced properly, so that it's working at its optimal performance. Might take a bit of getting used to for some people, but hey, change is always a good thing once you embrace it. One of the other tweaks that Rutus have made with the new configuration in the V2 software is just to tweak a couple of the global settings. So now the global settings, i.e. those that don't, you don't need to save per program, they remain the same no matter what program you're using, as you've set them, that is. Backlight, discrimination, sensitivity, notch, volume and wireless. So you've got 6 global settings that remain the same. Once you've set them in a program, that affects all programs. So all in all, I think a good selection of new features in the version 2 software, returning all the brilliant strengths of the Alter 71 and all the great features are already there, and enhancing it with a couple of new ones that are optional, better ground balancing system for even more optimal performance of the detector itself, with all the benefits that gives for more user choice. So I guess it's really up to sort of existing users if they want to move from 1.1 to 2, hopefully. This video and some field videos to come will help you decide whether or not you want to send your detector back in and get the upgrade.